they retire and then they get these plum jobs with the defense contractors and so on and so forth. Everybody's looking out for number one, and you can always find people to say what you want them to say or do what you want them to do.
Yeah. Well, you know, George Bush has been saying over in Europe that he really regrets a lot of his macho talk, bring him on, and that kind of thing. Then he turned right around and said the Iranians need to know all options are on the table. And here we still are on the eve of war perpetually, it seems like.
Yeah, and Condoleezza Rice said the week before that there was no point in talking to the Iranians because there's nothing to talk about. Well, I mean, that's an idiot comment if there ever was one. There are about 100 things to talk about.
And now, you know what, let's go ahead and get to some more of the details here. She will not sit down with them. She accused them of refusing to sit down with her, but the demand is that they must cease all uranium enrichment in order for any negotiations to begin. Basically, she demands unconditional surrender in order to get the talks started, Phil, and then she says that they won't talk to her.
That's right, and I find it as crazy as you do. The fact is that the insistence on preconditions that are basically a surrender by one side doesn't produce negotiations anywhere. I do understand what's going on here. Obviously, the administration doesn't want to talk to them, doesn't want to come to any kind of understanding with them, and it's using this kind of line as a justification for avoiding that.
All right. Now, you're a former CIA covert operative. I'm sure you must still have friends inside the intelligence community. You always come out with all these excellent articles sourced from unnamed sources and things like that the rest of us don't have. And we all know, everybody remembers that last November the CIA said that the Iranians have no nuclear weapons program, and the only one they ever had was in 2003, was given up in 2003, and never involved the introduction of nuclear materials or anything else. Do you know, Phil Giraldi, honest, true, Scout's honor, do you know of any evidence that has come out since then that would indicate that the Iranians are, in fact, building nuclear weapons?
The short answer is no. I do not know of any evidence that's credible that doesn't come from defector sources or doesn't come from the Israelis that would indicate that they have a nuclear weapons program.
All right, because the McClatchy news story today, and they always do a really good job, but they cite new concerns by the IAEA are, putting this back on the front burner. And meanwhile, I just read the new IAEA report, and it says in there that they have been able to continue to verify the non-diversion. They've been able to continue to prove the negative, to prove the non-diversion of any nuclear material to a special or other military purpose.
Right. Yeah. Well, the thing is, there is a suspicion that Iran has a secret program. And I must admit, if I were Iran and I had 160,000 U.S. troops right next door and a huge naval flotilla right off the coast, I'd probably be thinking of developing a nuclear weapon real fast. So the plausibility of this is real high. But at the same time, the evidence is not there. There is no evidence. And the thought of us going to a war situation based on no evidence, just speculation, I think is totally unacceptable. And I think I would certainly like to see the American people tell their elected officials that this is unacceptable.
Well, and it is the kind of thing where we can tell that our government knows it's lying when they make all these assertions to the contrary. I mean, you're telling me there's no evidence, and yet they're telling me all day there's evidence.
Yeah. Well, that's true, but this has been paralleled in terms of their other claims against Iran, the claims about Iran, the Iranians are killing our troops and that sort of thing. As far as I know, there have only been 2 attempts made by the occupation forces to show some of these weapons allegedly that have come from Iran. The first one was back, I think, in 2007, and it was so unconvincing that the media wrote up accounts of it saying that it didn't demonstrate anything that the Pentagon was trying to demonstrate. And then they tried it again last month, and then they had to cancel the briefing because they took another look at the weapons and determined that none of them were from Iran. It's kind of, the whole administration policy towards Iran is you construct these stories and you stick with them, and it doesn't matter if you have any evidence for it or not, and they just stick with the story and stick with the story, and they know that the press is going to play the story over and over again, and eventually the U.S. public will get convinced that Iran has nuclear weapons already, that it's sending its soldiers across the border to kill our troops. It's just unending.
Yeah, well, it's interesting. That was Hitler's technique. He defined it. He says, well, you just tell a really big lie and you tell it over and over again. No one would ever believe that you'd lie about something that big, so it works.
That's right. That's right.
I hate to, bring up the Hitler analogy because that just ruins all arguments or whatever, but that's what George Bush says. Well, in my line of work, you just have to keep saying things over and over and over again to catapult the propaganda.
If you've retired, you don't have anything to worry about. It's the third time I've said that. I'll probably say it 3 more times. See, in my line of work, you got to keep repeating things over and over and over again for the truth to sink in, to kind of catapult the propaganda.
Which is, I guess, his version of explaining the big lie technique.
Well, that's right, and he certainly has cited Hitler more than once in terms of his allegations about both Saddam Hussein and about Iran.
Yeah, there you go. So that makes it fair. I can invoke Hitler in my criticism of him. All right, now let's get back to Israeli spying here in the United States a little bit more. I get the idea from your article that no matter what the FBI or the CIA or the NSA or anybody tries to do within the United States government agencies to limit the influence of possible Israeli infiltration and so forth, but also to investigate and prosecute and do anything about these things when they find out about them after the fact, it seems to always be thwarted by political pressure from above. Is that right?
Yeah, sure, because if you're going to, you can investigate all you want, but if you're going to prosecute someone for a crime, that has to be done by the Justice Department, and if the Justice Department is receiving instructions from the White House saying that we're not going to go after these people, then nothing's going to happen.
And that's how it happens consistently.
That's how it happens consistently. There would have been, it's my understanding from sources inside the government, that there would have been a lot of prosecutions of Israeli spies because many of them have been caught. But instead of them being prosecuted, they're just basically released and allowed to go home.
Now, let's try to, if it's all right with you, I'd like to try to get back a little bit to the art students and the movers here before September 11th. The movers, particularly, were in New Jersey, in Liberty State Park, and as you detail in your article, after only the first tower had been struck, when 99% of the American people who knew what had happened were assuming that this was some terrible accident, these men were seen celebrating the attack, and locals called 911 on them.
That's right. That's how they were discovered. I mean, they were seen by horrified locals dancing and singing and in front of the tower, the burning tower. And as I say, this was before the second tower was struck, and apparently the implication was that everyone at that point, well, I was at CIA headquarters that day, and even at CIA headquarters, everybody assumed it was a horrible accident. So the movers must have known something, or perhaps were speculating on something. Who knows? Well, now, I don't know. What is that supposed to tell me about the CIA? No offense. When you guys weren't suspecting a thing, I thought there had, been hair on fire all summer long that something was going to happen. You weren't suspicious of what this might be? Well, I don't think anybody had put it all together to be suspicious of a plane being used as a missile. And if it had been a different kind of terrorist attack, I think everybody would have realized instantly that's what it was. But this was new. Admittedly, there were, a couple years before, there had been an attempt to hijack some airliners in the Philippines by Al Qaeda. Mm-hmm. So it should not have been a big surprise, but I think in this case it was. Yeah. Well, I guess that's why people are so suspicious about 9/11, because they just can't believe that you guys are that incompetent. Well, don't say you guys. I don't work for them anymore. I know. I'm sorry. No offense. I'm just playing. No, but there's certainly enough blame to go around on what happened on 9/11, and there have been a couple of books written that have shown how the dots should have been connected both by the FBI and by the CIA, but they didn't for various reasons, mostly bureaucratic. And but that's the way it goes sometimes, where you can have all the information in the world. In some ways, the more information you have, the more blind you are, because you're seeing so many things. You're not seeing something that should be obvious.